7 winners in 8 races. That is the balance of the first 3 rounds of the 2025 season of EUROCUP-3. And as we left Paul Ricard, we added 2 more winners to the fold. We are, of course, talking first and foremost of Kasper Stuka, the Polish driver who won the last race of the weekend and who, lo and behold, has become the new championship leader. He has been sneakily getting points here and there, where other rivals were not necessarily realizing that he was. And yet, that has been enough to get on top of the standings, and that will help him to show his speed once we get to the next event in Monza. Of course, before that, we also have to talk about the local team, the Santelok squad, which finally managed that win with Garrett Berry. Of course, an important win for them because they also show that they can fight with the big teams, with the main protagonists of the championship. It is, of course, the old fight, the classic duel between MP Motorsport and Campos Racing. Of course, that will continue to exist next time out in Monza. We are talking, of course, about Mattia Colnaghi, one of the winners in Paul Ricard, the only driver so far this season to get a repeat win. Of course, if we have 7 winners in 8 races, someone has to get 2, and that is Mattia Colnaghi. He was the big favorite after what we saw in the Spanish Winter Championship and the beginning of the season. Now, his rivals have grown exponentially. We have 4 main candidates because the difference in points is very, very small among the top 4. We're talking about Kasper Stuka, Mattia Colnaghi, Ernesto Rivera, and, of course, Valerio Rinicella, one of the only top dogs who hasn't won a race yet. And he will want to make that happen at home, at Monza. Will he be able to do it? I think he can. But, of course, to do that, to see that, we have to focus on the race. Are you ready for it? Let's go.
Alex is still in Paul Ricard. We've got a race to run here in Italy as well. Grazie mille, everybody, and welcome to the next outing, round 4 of EUROCUP-3 2025, the Temple of Speed, the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Scott Wood was here to guide you through all the action. You will hear from Alex Garcia, who will have teleported from the south of France over to Milan and Italy. And it's been quite wet there this morning, as I saw in a couple of the social media clips. But thankfully, the weather gods have blessed us with some beautiful Italian summer sunshine, and we are ready to get underway for what should be a very entertaining first of 2 races here this weekend. As Alex mentioned, we've had 7 different winners from the first 8 races, and there is every chance we could make it 8 from 9, particularly when you have Valerio Rinicella, who is starting on the front row of the grid. He is yet to win a race in the championship, and what better place to do it than his home circuit of Monza in front of his adoring Italian fans. Well, qualifying this morning, we saw quite an interesting result. It was pole position only by the cataclysmic margin of 15 thousandths of a second. Ernesto Rivera from Mexico taking pole in the Red Bull-coloured Campos racing car, with Valerio Rinicella second quickest, and Maciej Glanic and Mattia Colnaghi, and Andreas Cardenas fifth ahead of Enzo Tarvanichkul in 6th position. As for the man who leads the championship, Kasper Stuka, back down in 11th in the points. So they've got a lot of work to do from outside the top 10. If you bring Alex Garcia back in, Hola, amigo. Alex down on the grid in Monza. It was quite wet earlier on, but I think it looks as though, given the sunshine, I think you guys have dried off quite now, haven't you?
I think, Scott, hi again. This is the perfect way to start with, as you know, the often called Pista Magica, because we're bringing the magic. I've teleported from Paul Ricard in just a few seconds, and the track has dried completely in just a few hours. It was way beyond normal rain this morning. It was downpouring hugely. The wind was amazing, incredibly strong. The rain seemed like it wouldn't stop, but it has. Track is dry, everything is prepared, and I would say that this weather is now closer to what we saw in Paul Ricard than what we saw this morning. So this means that we are back to the usual summer festival of speed that we have in EUROCUP-3, and that can only mean good things for the race that we have ahead of us, because it's a dry track, and in Monza, that's always exciting to see.
We talked about, with Paul Ricard, very high temperatures. I look at the temperatures on my timing screen now. 28 degrees ambient temperature, 50-degree track temperature. That's going to play havoc with tyres here at Monza, particularly when you've got not just long straights, but big braking zones and long, fast corners. This is all going to be about tyre preservation rather than outright speed, isn't it?
As always in Monza, of course, yes, tire is going to be a factor. It has been the whole season, so I don't expect this to be different. But it will be an element, especially considering that there is still a whole day tomorrow, one more qualifying session, one more race to be run tomorrow. So, as always, that is going to be one element to look at. But I expect, anyway, for this race to be a quick one, and one where speed is still important. This is not, at the end of the day, a tire protection race. It's still a motor race, and as you know, that means there's going to be plenty of overtakes, especially here in Monza, and most of the race. Maybe not all of it, but most of it.
Now, looking at how they stand on the grid for this first race, and given where we are in the championship, the big surprise, I think, from qualifying, Kasper Stucker took the championship lead after Paul Ricard, didn't break in the top 10 in qualifying, only 11th going into this first race of two. His rivals in the championship, Colnaghi, Rivera and Rinicella. We've got Rivera and Rinicella on the front row together. As for Colnaghi, he's fourth. Why do you think Stucker's so far back? Is it traffic? Is it just a circuit he doesn't suit? Or is it just a reflection of just how close competitive this Tartus T318 chassis makes this championship, particularly in EuroCup-3, where we've got such a slightly jumbled up grid, even though many of the front runners are still towards the head of the field?
It has been a difficult weekend for Kasper Stucker so far. He had problems in the free practice. Of course, this is also not only part of why he starts behind, because he has struggled with his pace, but also what has ultimately caused Mattia Colnaghi to be receiving a 5-place penalty on the grid because of what happened with not respecting, I think it was yellow flags in free practice. And so that means that actually Mattia Colnaghi is also starting from pretty similar to the grid, pretty close to the grid to Stucker. He's going to be starting from 9th place. So we have the guys at the front of the grid. We have Ernesto Rivera, we have Valerio Rinicella, who of course will be pretty delighted about that opportunity, because they have a good chance to run away with some good points for the championship. Of course, if there's one track where things can still be recovered during the race, it's at Monza. Because overtaking here, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, it's never easy, but with the long straights and good slipstream, it could be a good option for both Stuka and Colnaghi to recover. We'll see about that. Crucial will be, of course, the start. There's a good distance to the first corner, so a good start here, a good launch, maybe just enough to bring those chances up for those two drivers who are starting a little bit further behind. We talk a lot about the championship contenders. There's more drivers, so as you will have time to check, there's going to be more drivers in there at the top of the grid who could challenge for the win. But we have to at least bring a little bit of that history of those 4 contenders that have maybe left a bit behind the rest of the field. But coming back to something that you said earlier as well, I think, Scott, that we have a good chance to have an 8th winner this weekend. Let's see if it's today or if it's tomorrow. I'm assuming it will be. That's my choice. That's my, as you know, my bet for the weekend, my P bet for the weekend will be that we will have an 8th winner. Let's see if I'm right or I'm wrong.
And of course, that's a reflection just how good this championship has become. Of course, we come into the weekend, as you said, 7 different race winners from 8. We could get 8 from 9. Just a final thought here, and that one, Rinicella in the perfect place to do it, which is from the inside of the front row of the grid. But Herrera, of course, wants to try and get his second win of the season. But it's quite unheard of. We've made quite a bit of history since Paul Ricard to have that many drivers winning so much. I think if we can continue that trend and more drivers get stronger and these grids become a bit more unpredictable, there's no reason we can't even break into double figures. I mean, do you think that's even remotely possible by the end of the season?
I think that could be possible. We still need to see if realistically we have potentially, let's say, 3 more drivers who could win. It does look that way so far. At least I can think of a couple more names. We need to see a couple more rounds to see if that can actually happen. But as you know, this is a weekend where things could happen. The slipstream at Monza always gives good chances for that. Next time around, in Assen will be again another good chance, because it is very unusual for single seaters to race in Assen, and therefore many of the drivers and teams do not have data on that, so that will throw a spanner on the works for everybody pretty much. And also after that we go to Spa, and in Spa, as you also well know, the weather could play tricks on us, so we have at the very least 6 more races where things can be pretty crazy. 10 winners this season. I'll choose to say yes as well.
It could happen. Muchas gracias, amigo. Que te va bien. We'll check in with you either at the end of the race or mid-race if we need you in the pit lane as well. So this is the second visit ever to Monza for EUROCUP-3. They raced back in 2023 in the first full season. And back then, it was victories at Monza for, if I can scroll down back on the historical results, it was, who took the victories last time? I should have really done this research. A double for Mari Boyer. So that was an excellent result for him. Let's see if anyone can try and do the double here this weekend. Let's take you through the grid then for race number 1 as they set off on their formation lap for this first of 2 races here this weekend. Remember, it's 30 minutes plus a lap, which means once the timer hits 0, then we get 1 more lap when they cross the line. And looking at the results, I'll take into account a couple of the penalties, particularly that 5-place grid penalty for Mattia Colnaghi as well. I'll take that into account and move everyone up on my screen. So Ernesto Rivera then starts on pole position for the Red Bull liveried Campos racing car. He heads a quartet of MP Motorsport machines on the grid, or he did anyway. It was Rinicella hoping to make it the 8th different winner from 9 races from the front row of the grid. He is on the front row there. That's Maciej Gladic, and now up onto the front row comes Andres Cardenas. I'll get that right, otherwise I'll get told off by Alex over the radio. So he starts in 4th. Then it's going to be Enzo Tarbanichkul, the tyre driver, alongside Emerson Fittipaldi. James Igozzi, who won at the Portimao circuit, and Jules Caranta, the Frenchman, will start in 8th, and it's going to be Francisco Mazzedo and Kasper Stucker, the championship leader, back in 10th, and then back in 11th is going to be Mattia Colnaghi. So he'll be in 9th, actually, I'll get that right. So it's going to be Colnaghi in 9th, then it's going to be Macedo in 10th, Kasper Stucker still 11th place. Then it's going to be alongside him on the 6th row, Jesse Carrasquero Jr., another top 5 driver back down the order. He starts in 12th for Griffin Corps. Then it's going to be Juan Cota and Garrett Berry, who took his first win of the championship for Santaloc last time at Paul Ricard. He starts 14th. Owen Tangavelli comes next, ahead of Alessandro Famolaro from Venezuela. Zach Sculler and Lenny Ried for Germany for Sparker Polo Motorsport start on the 9th row. Top 20 covered by Isut Barashi and Christian Cantu. Then it's Lorenzo Castillo and Oscar Wirtz, who's the son of former F1 driver and Le Mans winner Alex Wirtz and the brother of Charlie Wirtz. He'll start on the 11th row. Luciano Morano and Alessio Felvin, who's dovetailing racing in EUROCUP-3 with Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil, and he would have been racing last time out just across Europe in Portimao last time at Estoril when the championship visited. And he races the Lightning McQueen liveried car, not here, but in the Porsche Championship. He is on the 12th row. 13th row is Victor Dobzhansky and Preston Lambert, the US driver, and all DriveX 13th row. Then it's the Hellberg brothers, Linus and Emil, who start on the 14th row together. And right at the back, after looking good in qualifying earlier on in the wet this morning, it will be Alexander Abkajaba for KCL MP Motorsport. Didn't get a good time, 3.7 seconds off pole. He starts at the back of a 29-strong field here at Monza. So to give you an idea of the temperatures as well, because it is quite warm out there, it is approaching 30 degrees ambient temperature and 50 degrees track temperature. That is going to tear up these Hankook tyres quite a lot throughout this 30 minutes plus 1 race. So time management is going to be ultra key as well as getting up the order and making use of that slipstream. The long straights down the pit straight, through Curva Grande, down the back straight towards Ascari and the straight towards Parabolica, that's going to be all key. But those long, fast corners, like the Curva Grande, like the Lesmos, like going to the Ascari chicane, and like Parabolica, that's also going to be leaning on those tyres as well. So Campos Racing on pole on the front row of the grid, and then it will be alongside MP Motorsport, Renacella, Gladish and Andrea Cardenas. Three of them to try and bolster the attack, to try and hold on for Campos. Will be Tarvinichkul in the second of those Red Bull liveried cars. Polo Motorsport's best car is James Agozzi in 8th on the grid. Griffin Core have their best car starting now in 9th, it should be, when James Agozzi should be 7th after Kolnagi's penalty. And the rest will all lock in for what should be an exciting half an hour plus one lap. Stand by for action then. Who will take victory in race 1 at Monza for EUROCUP-3 2025? 5 red lights at the top of the gantry. We're racing. It's a decent start from Rivera. It's going to be second place. Not a good getaway initially for Renacella. You might have lost a couple of places, and one of the Ally Racing cars didn't get away. That's one of the Hellberg brothers, but they're swarming down towards the complex, and one or two cars locking up. Big lock up on the MP Motorsport cars, and there's contact between Tarvinichkul and another MP Motorsport machine. I'll see what the timing screen tells me in terms of who that was. Can't quite see it just yet. More cars skipping over the chicane, so several have skipped it all together. There was a couple of lockups mid-pack as they were going 2 and 3 wide, and there were green flags on the exit of the chicane, so I wonder if something's happened further back down towards the front. There's a car with damage to the left front suspension. Can't quite tell who it is. The other car locking up into the road. It's getting very messy out there. 1 or 2 cars on the grass as well on the outside. It's an all-action messy start. It's one of the Polo Motorsport cars by the look of it. There's more battles going on further back. That's 2 cars being edged onto the grass together. We'll figure them all out as they come through. Rivera still leads the way. It's Cardenas in second place. Got a great start for him, the Peruvian driver, up to P2. But it's not going to happen, and that's the reason why 3 cars off down at the chicane. It's one of the Camp DriveX cars. I think car 25's involved in that one, sadly. That's Preston Lambert. I think Christian Cantu's involved in that. Possibly also Viktor Dobzhansky for DriveX. And unfortunately, that's not the start we wanted to see. Safety car has been deployed. And the 3 cars drivers clamber out, gloves off, and think, what can we do? And that will have to be a bit of a clear up before we get racing back underway. Well, turn 1 at Monza was always going to be a pinch point, and it certainly has.
So as we perhaps expected, of course, the start at Monza is always a tricky affair, especially on that first, always very challenging chicane, which has dealt a bad hand to some of the drivers. And so we have seen that first presence of the safety car, which has been perhaps a bit more of a usual situation in this 2025 season. We are also observing the MP Motorsport team, which will have one of its cars now reaching the pit lane. I am also observing one of the Red Bull liveried machines stopping just a few meters behind that. That would be the
sotto la nostra mia postazione. Tra l'altro con la safety car avrà la possibilità di raggiungere il resto del gruppo.
For some of the other drivers that have been finding themselves in the wrong position at the wrong time. Unfortunately, we know that this is relatively common in Monza. but it has changed the face of the race a little bit. We have Ernesto Rivera in that first place ahead of Andres Cardenas, and I think, Scott, that this is perhaps what we were expecting.
Yeah, possibly. Also, if you're getting onto distortion on my microphone, apologies for that. I'm just trying to fix that as we go, but I'll try and do the best we can. So please bear with me on that side of things. Yeah, it was a bit of an all-action start in many cases, but if you can hear me, Alex, how much is this going to help these drivers to manage the tyres a little bit, particularly with how hot it is out there? Just give us an explanation on what it is they're going to be trying to go through here to make it work.
Well, as always, with these kind of situations, it is always a godsend when the temperatures are high, and they have been very high since the rain stopped this morning. It will be at least a little bit of a breather for these drivers, who will still have to keep temperatures high, because if you let the tires become too cold and you bring them down only to bring them up again, that does affect the performance. So at the end of the day, you still need to keep temperatures high, but not having them at peak performance is always a little bit of a help in these conditions. But again, I want to insist on that. You cannot let temperatures drop too low for performance reasons, so they will not be exactly holding themselves too much. They will be trying to, as you will see them weaving around to the point where they can do it. They will probably be doing some some strong brakings later on when the race is about to start again, more for the brakes than for the tires, but this is also going to have an effect on the tires. So of course these are things to consider, because the more laps that we are behind the safety car, the more it will help them. If we stay 2 or 3 more laps, well, that's 2 or 3 more laps and a few more minutes that the race is going to be shortened effectively. So less laps means less time to keep those tires good for. So that's probably what the drivers are looking out for.
Yeah, certainly so. Thank you for that, Alex. Again, forgive my microphone quality. I'm trying to adjust that on the system so I can make it a little bit better for the better microphone on my one, which I should have access to very, very shortly if I can. Let's just look at the running missile at the moment. I'll keep talking in any case whilst we're on the safety car. It is Ernesto Rivera who leads the way from Andres Cardenas in second place. Then it's British in third. Igozzi fourth. Gladish in 5th position, 6th ends for Emmo Fittipaldi, 7th for Mattia Colnaghi, 8th for, at the moment, Jesse Carrasquedo, 9th for Jules Caranta, and then rounding out the top 10 is Francisco Macedo as well. Kasper Stucker, meanwhile, has actually dropped to 14th through all of that, so that's not been a great start for him in that sense. And as the action continues on, just seeing here, we've got the safety car is leading the cars through the Rettifilio chicane. And just waiting for the field to come back through again on that one. Yeah, I'm just trying to fix it. Forgive me. Okay. Kane, by the way, you also should finger fix the microphone. So again, apologies for any for any audio issues. I know it would have sounded not as great as it has done before. Right, now that's out of the way, back into the safety car. We still have Rivera leading the way. And Lenny Reid has also come up through from 10th on the grid. That's quite an impressive run for him so far. He was back looking at his qualifying result. He was, if I bring that up on the screen, he was way back in 18th. So he's come through the melee to put himself into the top 10. The biggest loser from that, given that he started in P10 after in 11th place, even with demotion for Mattia Colnaghi, is Kasper Stucker in 14th. So Kasper now's got a lot of work to do. as we look set, hopefully very soon, to get racing back underway. Still following the Audi safety car. And in terms of the points, of course, coming into the weekend, we had 14 points covering the top four. Kasper Stucker was leading with 104. Mattia Kolnagi and Ernesto Rivera on 99 points each. And then back at 90 points, it was Valerio Rinicella. But we'll see how much that changes. Rinicella could gain some more points on his rivals if he can get a good restart here. The safety car is about to come in, so we've got 20 minutes plus 1 lap to go. And of course, at a safety car restart, it means that Ernesto Rivera in the Red Bull liveried Campos car, he now has to decide when to restart this race. And I think he's gone early, just about halfway down the back straight. They're still weaving around to get temperature into their tyres, both Rinicella and Agozzi. But Rivera with the early restart into the Parabolica, this looks as though it is going to be a much better run this time for Rivera. He wants to try and make it his second win of the season if he can manage to make this stick. So out of the Parabolica they go, down the pit straight to restart race 1 of the weekend for EUROCUP-3 at Monza. And Rivera already trying to break the toe, moving left and then right, trying to hold himself in front. But still Rivera has the advantage. Of course, now they're past the green flags, they can now start to overtake again. There's a battle further back for 6th and 7th, 1 or 2 lock up, 1 or 2 of the MP Motorsport cars. That was, I think, Emma Fittipaldi battling away with Agozzi and Gladish. Out of the Retifilia they go. It's 2x2 hurrah. That was between that was Caranta, Carrasqueda, Colnaghi, Fittipaldi by the looks of things. In fact, yes, it was Caranta, Carrasqueda, Colnaghi and Macedo battling over what looks to be 7th position, and they're 2x2 in towards the Rogia. It's still Rivera who leads the way by about half a second from Cardenas in 2nd place. Rinicella's holding station in 3rd, and he could be in a good position here to get himself a good victory. But we can't, of course, ignore Andreas Cardenas, the Peruvian driver. Very impressive qualifying and making the most of this couple of places gained in the opening couple of laps to put himself into 2nd place and genuinely on pace challenging Ernesto Rivera. A couple of cars running wide on the exit of the 2nd Lesmo. Now they come through the flat-out left-handed kink. Curva di Seraglio, and now down towards the Ascari chicane, one of the most infamous corners on this circuit. Rivera holding station. You can see these EuroCup-3 cars with the ever so slight, almost low downforce configuration, and you can see there that weave from side to side. Rivera not comfortable on the racing line. He wants to try and weave from side to side, not to block, but to try and move the toe in order to make it work. There's a huge scrap going on for about 8th position backwards down there. That looks like it's Colnaghi, Carrasqueda, Reed, Macedo, Berry, Stucker, Tangabella. They're all in the mix there, battling over what looks to be from 7th place downwards. Oh, 1 car off the road. Now, who's that? That's possibly, I think he's Linny Reed. I think it was a Sparco Polo Motorsport car by the looks of it. And I think he's off the road now. Is that going to prompt another safety car? I wonder. He's off the road there. Possible change for 3rd as there goes Agozzi down the inside of Rinicella. That's a position gained for the American. And Gladish also wants to make up a spot too. He's on the tail of Rinicella, so his chances of possibly taking his first victory are going a little bit by the wayside. But at the same time, I wonder if Cardenas might be able to pick him up. Well, there could be an option, another chance here because the safety car has been deployed once again. 2nd safety car. And what's the classic phrase? Safety cars breed safety cars. So all those cars bunched up together, and there was a huge battle pack going on for about 7th or 8th position backwards. Several cars involved in that scrap down the back straight. And not that you had a feeling something was going to happen, but with those cars so many congested, it was always going to be a risk, particularly with so many cars trying to grab a toe from each other down the back straight to make that work. So 2nd safety car of the race already. We're going towards half distance in this 30 minutes plus 1 lap encounter at Monza. And let's see, look at a replay here. We only caught the tail end of it, but they're skating off the road. I think is Lenny Reed, or it was someone in one of the Polo Motorsport cars by the looks of it. Let me scroll down the order and see if I can find who that might have been off the road. Someone who... The driver who hasn't come through actually was Garrett Berry. So it might have been Garrett Berry in the Santalot car, possibly, I wonder. He looked like a Polo Motorsport machine, but I wasn't sure if it was him or not. So back under safety car conditions once again. And there's the 2 Ally racing cars. It's Linus Hellberg ahead of Emil Hellberg, 2 brothers. They are the oldest drivers in the field. And they're here not necessarily for racing career reasons. They're here simply just to enjoy themselves because they have the ability to race in this championship. And yeah, it looks as though it is Garrett Berry that went off the road because he didn't complete Sector 2 and is off the road. So sadly, the Santalot racing driver out of the race. And we can also mention that the 4 cars we lost in the opening stages was Christian Cantu. That 3 DriveX cars, in fact, went out of the race there. Christian Cantu, Preston Lambert, Victor Dobzhansky, and Alceo Feldman off the road as well. Sparco Polo Motorsport. Now, here's a replay of the start. I can cover this properly now. I've got a proper microphone. So it was a decent launch for Rivera from pole position. Cardenas fell back a couple of spots. Didn't get the best of launches. Was better in the second phase of the start. But as they charged down towards the first corner, the camera didn't catch what happened in the beginning. There's lots of battling going on. A big lockup from one of the MP Motorsport cars. There was initial contact, looks like, between... I guess that's Caranta and Fittipaldi, I'll say. It was an MP Motorsport car and one of the Red Bull Campos machines. One car also went across and hit one of the bollards. Several cars picked their way through. But the melee and the accident happens off camera behind us. That's the reason why you got the green flag to the left-hand side of the screen. That's why we had an incident there. And a few drivers hitting Strife early means that they're going to take a bit of a hit in terms of their points. And I have to say, Garrett Berry, it's a real shame for him. He was on such a high last time at Paul Ricard, having taken his first victory and Santalot's second victory in the championship. He came into the weekend 9th in points after that victory, and he now has got some work to do to try and reclaim that back in the second race tomorrow. So any big movers and shakers? Kasper Stucker's up to 9th now. He was at 1.14, so he's benefited from a lot of the melee that was going on in front to pick up several places. He could still get a strong top 10 finish if he can perform well in this second half of the race. And their confirmation, sadly, is Garrett Berry's Santalot racing car being dragged away. And it didn't look as though that Garrett hit the wall or anything, so he should be perfectly okay. Maybe as a last resort precaution, he might well just go to the medical centre purely to be checked over to be absolutely safe. It didn't look as though he made contact with anything, so I think, not that I'm a doctor, he should be absolutely fine on the surface, touch wood. So now that car's being dragged away, there might be a chance we could get a restart this time. I wonder if we might get this race back underway shortly, because that car really been cleared quickly away. As ever again, thank you to all of our marshals and officials and recovery crews, because you can see the marshals and the vehicle are all quickly away from the scene and back behind the barriers. So I think we could be in line, potentially, to get this race back underway this time by. I don't think we should need another lap, because everyone's back in position. And they haven't yet got cleared the Ascari chicane. So I think we should see, hopefully, safety car lights off this time. Fingers crossed. We can get back to racing underway with about, when they get to the line, if it is this time, 12.5 minutes. And it looks as though, unless the angle of my eyes were deceiving me, no, safety car lights are still on. But they are making their way right. Right, safety car lights are indeed off. That's good to see. So for the second time in this race, it is now up to Ernesto Rivera to control the pace and control the restart. He decides when to put his foot down. Does he go as early as he did before? Does he catch it later to try and stop Cardenas, Igozzi and co from closing in? MP Motorsport are watching on keenly. They've got three of their cars in the top 5, 4 in the top 6. And Rivera has already gone midway down the back straight. He's now got Cardenas right on his rear wing. Igozzi tries to go within 3rd place. Rinicella will try and stick with them in 4th as the MP Motorsport squad watch on for the pit wall. Down the pit straight they come. And down towards the Rettifilio once again. Under green flag conditions. Just over 12 minutes to go plus 1 lap. And it is Rivera who leads them back across the restart. Igozzi looking pretty racy for 2nd place. 2 of the Campos cars are side by side. And here you can see that Cardenas is going defensive. Igozzi goes to the outside, but he's boxed in between. And there's a lockup from Cardenas. Igozzi skips over the chicane. He can't hold, but he'll have to give it back again. Another of the Red Bull cars. That'll be Caranta skipping over the chicane. I think Kasper Stucker made his way over there too. There's 3, 4, maybe 5 cars that completely negated the chicane whatsoever. So lots of cars snatching a break. I wonder if that's the hot temperatures doing something, because the track temperature, again, is still looking pretty hot out there. Side by side for the lead. Here comes Cardenas into the Rogia. He's attacking, but the Peruvian driver not making his way through. More side-by-side action further back. Oh, and there's more contact in the background. Huge incident. 2 cars involved. I didn't quite catch exactly who it was. I'll see you guys tumbling down the timing screen in a moment. But 2 guys got tangled. One was rejoining after he skipped the chicane at the Rogia. The other one moved across, and contact was made. One of them has damage to at least one of the front wheels. And again, we'll have to watch to see who goes down the timing screen to see who was involved in that. Side by side for third between Rinicella on the left and Negozzi on the right. And it's Rinicella who holds the place. Now, who went down the timing screen? It was Kasper Stucker, in fact, I think. It was Kasper Stucker, I think, and Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. So yet again, another safety car called, the third one in this race. And incredibly, it involves the championship leader. So Kasper Stucker involved in the contact with Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. And I think that is, if I'm right, that is Kasper Stucker part right there. It's one of the two, in fact, obviously, because they've both got primarily white cars. And it's two of the Griffin Core teammates. And that's the worst scenario that you want, because cardinal sin number one that you do not want to commit, do not hit your teammate. And unfortunately, both of them have come to blows. Now, I don't know if we're going to get a replay of that. I only really saw the tail end. But it looked to me initially, as there is Jesse Carrasquedo Jr., damage to the front right and left of the car at least, and Jesse trudges away, gloves off, head in his hands, thinking, what on earth just happened there? And of all the people to make contact with, it's one of the drivers in the same garage as him, and he is absolutely furious with himself. So, for the third time in this very action-packed interrupted race, we're back at the safety car. Now, here's what happened. We're going to look back from the beginning of the restart here. So we're going back to what initially happened. It was side by side between two of the Campos drivers further back. It might have actually been the two teammates at Griffin Core. So this is what happened. Down to the chicane, a lock up there from Rinicella, from Cardenas. It skips over the chicane. So too does Caranta, and I think also in that team might have been Kasper Stucker as well. A few more cars skip over the chicane. Two of them being, I think, Pilot Motorsport cars. That was the first corner melee, but we want to see what happened if we count the exit of the Roger chicane, because that's where the incident took place that has taken out both Kasper Stucker and Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. So this might make it an all-action race, but the main person who benefits out of it all is the race leader, Ernesto Rivera. He has led every lap from pole position so far. Granted, most of that advantage has been thanks to the safety car, which has meant the likes of Cardenas, Rinicella, Igozzi, Gladish and co. can't actually make it past, because we get safety cars within 2 laps of a restart. But that's the nature of Monza. So many cars all tightly bunched together on such a fast circuit where you're all trying to catch a toe from each other. And the more cars that stack up in a line of cars, as you are further back, the toe gets bigger and bigger. So that's where you get more speed. There's an incredibly frustrated Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. head in his hands. He came into the weekend 5th in the championship, had a race win in the first race at Portimao, took 2 top 5s at Paul Ricard, and he was 28 points off 4th place Valerio Rinicella, and he was really hoping he'd managed to get some big points. And the thing to be kicking himself about is that, as I mentioned, of all the cars that you do not want to make contact with, it's one of your teammates, and sadly, that's come to blows. There is Kasper Stucker's car being dragged away. Now that car, I think, came to a stop because it had damage to both the front wheels. And as ever, the recovery team's now down at the Roger being called into action, and the pole driver's car being lifted away. And what a nightmare. From taking his first victory at Paul Ricard, the highest of highs, to an incredibly low point in his championship, contact with his teammate. I hate to keep saying it, but it's something that you really don't want to make contact with. You don't never want to make contact with anyone, but when it's your teammate, it's even worse. So Griffin Core might have a bit of an awkward debrief tonight after those two, but I'm sure they'll talk about it. They'll shake hands and make up and move on and get on to race 2 tomorrow. So what has that done to the race order? Well, it's no change at the front. It's still Rivera who leads the way, from Cardenas in 2nd place, Rinicella still 3rd, Igozzi now 4th for Polo Motorsport. Then it's Gladish and Fittipaldi in 5th and 6th. Jules Caranta is 7th in the 2nd of the Red Bull liveried Campos cars. 8th is Mattia Colnaghi. Remember, he started back in 9th after that 5th-place grid penalty after qualifying 4th originally. And then rounding out the top 10 is Oscar Wirtz. So incredible stuff for him. Thumbs up from Kasper Stucker. I think he's just checking that he can walk backwards now that his car is being recovered again. The recovery team now seeing to Jesse Carrasquedo Jr.'s car, which managed to carry on for a little bit, but it actually had to make a stop exiting the 2nd Lesmo. So that is a total of 7 cars affected. There's still 22 running, but the hope is they can get this car quickly behind the barrier so we can get racing back underway. And that might well mean that Rivera's going to have to be on the biggest defence of his career, of his life so far, because he'll have a very fired-up Cardenas, who hasn't won a race, Rinicella, who hasn't won a race ever, Igozzi, who has a race win to his name after he took victory in the sprint race at Portimao, and have Gladish behind who took a race win, in the second race at the Red Bull Ring. He'll have Fittipaldi behind, who came into the weekend. It looks like he is, was it 9th or 10th in points? About 12th in points, Emerson. They got a third place in the sprint race at Paul Ricard last time. Then it's Colnaghi, who's Jules Caranta, who is in 7th in points coming into the weekend. Had a rough patch of results last time. Ever since he took the second place in race 2 at Portimao, the best he got at Paul Ricard was 10th, and that was barely any points. So he got an 18th and a 15th in the other 2 races back in France. He's got a lot of work to do. Not a great home visit for Jules in the second of the 3 Red Bull liveried Campos cars. The other one, which is Enzo Tarvanichkul, he is back in 16th. So mixed fortunes for the Red Bull drivers at the moment. In terms of the other teams, Griffin Corps only have 1 car left in this race, and that's Francisco Macedo, who is currently came into the weekend 11th in points with a best result of 2nd in the sprint race at Paul Ricard, and he's currently sat at the moment in 9th. DriveX have only 2 cars left in the show in this race, best of which is Oscar Wirtz. Bear in mind that he started quite far back, in fact. Oscar Wirtz was back in 22nd on the grid. So 12 places made up, keeping his nose out of trouble for young Oscar. As we see some photographers up onto the very steep historical banking. Used to be used back in the 50s. And it's a relic of motorsport times gone by. Great to see the old historic banking still in existence. Can't imagine modern day motorsport running on something like that with such high steep banking on it. Think about Grand Prix cars used to race there as well, and sports cars. But nowadays, I just don't think it'd be feasible. So hopefully we're close to a restart, because I'd like to think that they'll have managed to pull Hesse Carrasquedo Jr.'s car out of the way after that, and they will be able to get this race back underway very shortly. And as the race hopefully prepares to get underway very shortly again, we should be hopefully looking at what could be a very all-action 3 minutes plus 1 lap for this restart. Thumbs up in the MP Motorsport garage you saw there. They're ready to go. They've got, as we said, 4 of their cars up in the top 6, 5 of them in the top 8, because they have Cardenas and Rinicella 2nd and 3rd, Gladish and Fittipaldi 5th and 6th, and Colnaghi in 8th position. The recovery vehicle getting back into place, which hopefully, if that's the case, it might well be in position again by the time they get back to racing. So fingers crossed that they can get this back underway. They should be able to do so in a few moments' time, but there's a quiet confidence there. Safety car has indeed disappeared, so let's try this again, shall we? It's now Néstor Rivera's getting pretty good at restarts. He's getting plenty of practice in this race. It's his 3rd safety car restart. Which way, when will he go now? He's going a little bit later. Waiting. Now, he's gone for it. That's the nearest he's got to the Parabolica on a restart now, so he's practicing them quite far back initially at the top of the straight, now midway through, and now towards the end of the straight towards Parabolica. We're back to green flag, 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap then. Is it going to be a 2nd win of the season for Néstor Rivera, or is it possible that either Andreas Cardenas or Venera Rinicella can take their first victories and make it 8 winners from the first 9 races? Down towards the Retifilia again. Sprint begins into the braking zone. More side-by-side battles. Caranta going side-by-side with... Looks like that's Fittipaldi. 1 car skipping over the chicane. That might have been Macedo, I think. Slotting back into line. And it's the first 7 or 8 that are all together out through Curva Grande and back towards the Roggia. Let's see if we can find any particular battles here. 1 car moving out. This is for position. This is for 2nd place, side by side. And this will be Rinicella putting the attack on his teammate for 2nd place. He wants to go after Rivera as they go through. And once they're skipping over the curbs there, is it a change for the MP Motorsport teammates? They are side by side towards Lesmo 1. And who's got the inside line? We'll try and tell. It's a bit tricky to see. There's 1 car that's lost its front wing in the background. It might have been, was it a DriveX car possibly? It's a DriveX, I think, or a Campos car that's lost its front wing. Either way, someone's struggling, so more contact further back. And yeah, running wide, that's the car I think that's lost the front wing that's running wide. We'll see who goes tumbling down the timing screen. We'll figure that out in a second. Back towards Ascari, and the battle between the 2 MP Motorsport teammates has given Néstor Rivera a bit of respite here. He's now pulling away. It's got a good gap here as they'll go on to what will be the 2nd to last lap. Side by side out of the Ascari chicane. They're going to go 3 near 4 wide down the back straight in the background. It's side by side for 4th between Caranta and Looks like, I think, Fittipaldi, Igotti's been shuffled backwards several places. He's lost several positions. Look at that. He was 4th going on to this restart. He's back to about 10th. He's there right at the back of the queue by the look of it. He's really lost some space. Down the pit straight they go once again, and more cars off the road. That's down at Parabolica. Again, 2 cars involved. One, I think, is the Polo Motorsport car. Oh, and dare I say it, that car being stranded. Dare I say the words, are we going to have to finish this under red flag? I'd hate if we have to. Side by side for what will be 6th or 7th. 3 wide into the chicane. That will be, I think, looks like Fittipaldi, I think, one of the MP Motorsport cars. It will be, I think, Fittipaldi or Colnaghi. They come out of the chicane. And it's car 10's off the road. That is Castillo off the road. The other car, which is another one of the blue cars involved. And safety car's been called immediately again. The car that was also in as well is car 11. That was Oscar Wirth. So he was up in 10th at one point, but down to 22nd. And I fear, because we are now onto the time has hit 0 and we have got 1 lap to go, that I think we will have to finish this race under the safety car. We never want to see it finish like that. But I think given the incidents on all the restarts that we've had, it might well be that we have to finish this race under the safety car, and it will mean effectively that the order will be frozen, and that should in fact give Ernesto Rivera a 2nd win of the season for Campos in the Red Bull livery car. Out of number 11 gets Oscar Wirth for Drive X. He was the one that lost his front wing down at the Roggia. I think the one word to describe this race is eventful. Plenty that went on in that race, and I can't see the other driver who was involved. There was 2 blue cars that went off the road. I want to say it might have been Zach Sculler who was off the road, because that was another blue car too. Oscar Wirtz's car gets pushed back. So it looks like, I think, Castillo and Zach Sculler have come together at Parabolica. And you never want to see that incident, but unfortunately, it's against that saying. Safety cars certainly have bred safety cars in this situation. And it means that for some drivers, they get a bit of respite. And I think for really Ernesto Rivera, arguably, it might be his easiest win today. Not because he ran away with a massive gap, because most of the race was held on the safety car. So he really didn't have to do much driving at high speed. And it will be his 2nd win of the season. Now, the safety car, I think, will pick them up and will at least lead them round to complete this additional lap once they cross the line. So the race order under safety car then, as we look towards the safety car finish, is going to be, by the look of it, Ernesto Rivera with the victory, his 2nd win of the season. Andres Cardenas, who, up to this point, his best result had been 8. He'd scored that 4 times this season. And he has now going to pick up a 2nd place finish, the Peruvian driver. What a result that's going to be for him. By far his best result of the season. And Valerio Rinicella will pick up another podium place. He has only finished 1 race outside the top 5 all season, and that was right at the start of the year at the opening race of the season at the Red Bull Ring. Since then, from the Red Bull Ring, where he finished 6th, in terms of races run through Red Bull Ring, Portimao and Paul Ricard last time, he's been 4th, 5th, 3rd, 5th, and then at Paul Ricard he got 2nd, 5th and 2nd. So he's now 3rd once more. That'll be his 4th podium of the season. 4th will go to Maciej Gladish, who was 6th coming into the weekend, and that will be only his 2nd time in the top 5 all season, because outside of his win in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring, he has only finished the best of 6th. As we see there, the 2 drivers involved, both Castillo and Sculler, ruining their fortunes, I'm afraid. Familaro there with his head in his hands. There's a lot of drivers who are very frustrated by their efforts. And I have to say, the team that's had a nightmare scenario in this one is Drivec, because all 5 of their drivers have hit troubles. Oscar Wirtz had the damaged front wing. Familaro was off at the Parabolica. We also lost at the first corner. We lost Christian Cantu, Preston Lambert, and Victor Dobzhansky. That's going to be a lot of work for DriveX to get those 5 cars ready. I've no doubt that they will, because they're a crack squad, are DriveX, but you either want an easy weekend where all of your cars come back in one piece and it's just light housekeeping on those cars to make sure they're back and race ready to go. The worst situation that you want is for any of them to have any damage, but for all 5 of them needing attention one way or the other, that's going to be, I'm afraid, a very late night and early and into the early hours of the morning. I hope not too much, but it's going to be a very long day and a very long night for DriveX to fix those cars and get them ready for the race once again tomorrow. Fans are trying to keep cool because the temperature, of course, is in the high 20s, and track temperature all race has been around 50 degrees. And this will probably be the greenest circuit that they've driven all day, because after the heavy rain this morning, we've had plenty of races go on with Supersport GT and the Legends Italia race. We had a Boss GP race before as well. Plenty of rubber laid down. So this will be the grippiest this circuit has been all weekend so far. At the moment, 29 degrees air temperature, 49 degrees track temperature. So it's gone down by a degree, but that won't make too much of a difference, I don't think. So as the cars make their way through the Parabolica for the last time under safety car, as I mentioned, you never want to see a race finish under safety car because it is a bit of an anticlimax. But unfortunately, due to the instance that we've had, you kind of have no choice, I'm afraid. But one person who won't mind that too much is going to be the man who'll cross the line and take his second win of the season. Up to the checkered flag under safety car. It will be win number 2 in 2025 for Ernesto Rivera. He takes victory for the Red Bull Juniors in Campos Racing. Victory for him. Second for Andres Cardenas. He'll be delighted with that best result, I think, ever in Eurocup-3 results. Third for Valerio Rinicella, who will get another podium finish, but again has to wait for that first victory. Fourth for Maciej Gladish. Fifth for Jules Carranza. Sixth for Mattia Colnaghi after he started back in ninth after that 5-place grid penalty. Then Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. 7th. James Agozzi, he was up as high as 3rd at one point in 8th. Then Juan Cota, we haven't really talked about too much in the field so far today, back in 9th. And Francisco Macedo rounding off the top 10. Rest of the results we've also got in there is Isaac Barashi 11th, Owen Tankervelu 12th, Lenny Reed 13th, Enzo Tarvanichkul 14th, Andres Abkazava 15th, from Luciano Morano. And the two Hellberg brothers, keeping their noses out of trouble, have actually managed to come through and pick up 17th and 18th place. So they've managed to get, I think, some of their best results of the season all year. But look at where they finished so far this season. They have so far finished... for Emil Hellberg, it equals... his best result of the season. He managed to pick up a 18th place back at Portimao. And Linus Hellberg picked up 19th before this one. So 18th and 19th is now bettered by 17th and 18th for the two Ally Racing cars. There is a third Ally Racing car joining them because Owen Tankervelu has joined Ally Racing this weekend as well. I think that's just him there, just in the third of those cars at the end of the pit lane. And the third of the black and yellow machines going down towards the second Lesmo. But in what I'm certain will be, I think, as Alex I'm sure will question him, the easiest race victory of, I think, his career so far, given that most of it was spent under safety car. Ernesto Rivera taking a victory that he so desperately needed, I think, given that he came into Paul Ricard, the championship leader, left it dropping down to third. In Ami, he scored big points ahead of Colnaghi and I think also on top of that, Colnaghi and Rivera and Stucker, because Stucker didn't finish the race, and Colnaghi was back in 6th position, if I'm correct. He was in the top 5 somewhere. Where's Colnaghi? Yes, 6th for Colnaghi. So that will certainly mean that it will be very good points for him. So that will be at least 25 points for Ernesto Rivera. It'll be 8 points for Colnaghi and no points for Stucker. So that will mean that I'm confident Ernesto Rivera should now have retaken the championship lead as a result of that, because he's outscored Colnaghi by 17 points, if my maths are correct. So that's a big leap. So that will take him from what would have been... He also got the 2 points for pole position. Didn't get the fastest lap. That went to James Agozzi. 147.809. He was a fraction away from that. So it'll be actually 19 points he scores over that. So that should now take him from what will be, I think, 99 points to about 116, I think. That'll make him on to. Whereas, Colnaghi will be at about 107, I think. So I think you're now looking not only at your race 1 winner, but once again, new championship leader. Race 1 victor, despite all the safety cars. It is win number 2 of the season for Ernesto Rivera, who can't do the celebration top of the car. He almost wobbles his way off the car, but that won't matter. He embraces his team. And once again, only the second time this season we've had a driver win more than one race. The other one so far has been Mattia Colnaghi, the man who's now, I think, stayed ahead of in the championship, but now firmly taken the championship lead from Kasper Stucker, and now has got the point gap out to Colnaghi, who he was 2 points ahead. I think he's now extended that by another 18. So that'll be Colnaghi going on to 107, whereas that should be, I think, 27 points added to the 101 that Rivera has. So 128, I make it, to 107. So I think that now gives Rivera, on my GCSE maths, a 21-point lead going into tomorrow. And that's going to be key for the Red Bull Junior for Campos. He will certainly relish that one. And that's a big advantage this actually might be one of the key victories of the season. One of his easiest under the safety car, but one of his most crucial, given that his rivals either didn't really score very much or didn't score anything at all, because particularly Kasper Stucker, who will have really felt the effect of not finishing, and again, will have been gutted to not only not finish the race, but the cause of that was making contact with, of all the people that you do not want to make contact with, your teammate. That was going to be gutting for them. The recovery is still going on down at the Parabolica. As far as we can see, from the surface at least, all drivers appear to be okay. If any need to, they'll go to the medical centre for precautionary checks as a default if they feel they need to, or they'll be instructed to by the recovery teams and marshals just as a precaution. And we have to give a shout out, of course, a big shout out, of course, as well, to not just the winner, Ernesto Rivera, who is P1 in race number 1 at Monza, but also Andreas Cardenas. What a result for him. His first podium in second place. An incredible effort for him there. As we're looking at some of the highlights from race 1 on the screen here. And if there's one word to describe it, as I'm sure Alex is listening, it's eventful. I think that's an understatement. Plenty went on. Lots of drivers hitting strife. Sadly, lots of incidents. We never like to see that. But unfortunately, not that we wish it on anyone, but that's motor racing. These things can and do happen. And with a field so competitive as this, I mean, cars so evenly matched as these, on a circuit like Monza and a championship so closely fought as EUROCUP-3, it can be a really tough situation for anyone to get round. So, in a race where his championship rivals really faltered and didn't score what they wanted, Ernesto Rivera should, we think, take the championship lead once again quite clearly and takes his second win of the season. He's down the pit lane with Alex, our race 1 winner here at Monza.
Ernesto Rivera, amazing result at the end of the day. I know it's not perhaps the one type of race where drivers enjoy the most, but a win is a win. Those points are worth as much as any kind of race. And if my calculations are not wrong, you are back in the lead of the championship. Not too bad.
Yeah, not the most fun race due to a lot of safety cars. We managed to all the restarts and yeah, good points.
I know that you were gutted, very disappointed last time out in Paul Ricard. Does this make up a little bit for that?
Yeah, of course, Paul Ricard. I made quite a lot of mistakes, and to come back with a win, it's boosting confidence.
And very different conditions from this morning to what we've seen this afternoon. How does a driver face a challenge of a day like this where you do not have that much running in those conditions, so you cannot go back to that experience?
Yeah, FP was hard because a lot of rain. But we came back in qualifying strong, the car was amazing, and yeah, my driving was also on point.
Second driver to repeat win this season with Matti. Now the expectation is to try and become the first one to make 3 wins this season. Can you make it? Can you do it tomorrow?
We'll try tomorrow.
All right, Ernesto. Good job today. Enjoy the win.
Thank you.
So as we often say with these kind of attitudes, as cool as a cucumber. And in this heat, believe me, being cool is not definitely easy, but definitely welcome. Not perhaps the most fun race, very eventful as you've said, Scott, but these races, they need to be done as well. The points are worth as much as anyone else. And at the end of the day, for a driver to win this kind of race, you still need to be at the top, you still need to have done a good qualifying session, and you still need to have done good starts and good restarts.
That's the key thing. They had, 3 safety car restarts for Ernesto Rivera, and the fact that he was able to get calm on each of them, he's got good practice of them now, given he's done 3 of them in one race. But I think looking back at it, as you might have heard, I think this could be potentially one of those races where you'll look back at it at the end of the season and think, if the championship swings one way or the other, and it does go Rivera's way, and he does now go on to win the championship, it's a hypothetical big if, this could very well be the race that he points back and say, wasn't the most eventful, it's maybe not the way I would have wanted to take the victory, but I scored big points over Matti Koonagi. Stucker didn't even finish and score anything. Given he's got, I think, possibly something like a 27-point lead now over his second-place Stucker, given that he hasn't finished. That's certainly going to be a very key thing going into the rest of the season. Of course, race 2 tomorrow is going to be very interesting after qualifying to see who ends up where. And, of course, there'll be data on how warm these track temperatures are. If it's wet again tomorrow morning, we'll have to wait and see. But with this championship being such fine margins, with this championship being so competitive, I'm not going to say we expected a race like this, because we never expect a race like this at all. But the fact we had safety car after safety car after safety car, is that just so how competitive it was? We had so many drivers vying for position and vying for places on those restarts when it was so closely bunched together. It never really let anyone, Alex, get into a proper rhythm, and therefore it was a simple enough race, but didn't give us a lot of the racing that I think many of us expected, because none of the drivers really got into a proper rhythm for battles because there were so many safety car interruptions.
Yeah, exactly. It's not exactly the type of race that a driver is usually prepared for, but it does test how adaptable you are to these kind of situations, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to react to, suddenly changing into kind of saving tire mode and then going back to race mode as soon as the race is restarted. And not all the drivers are equally as good at this. So that's why we mentioned how restarts are important as well, because you need to be able to switch modes. And yeah, Ernesto Rivera did it fantastically today.
Of course, a couple of teams that will have some work to do overnight. I mentioned in the broadcast, and one of them is going to be DriveX we'll talk about. It's hard enough when you've got one driver having had to have their car repaired overnight, but DriveX have all 5 of theirs involved in incidents, including 3 down at that first corner incident. How much of a long night are they going to have getting those cars ready for even qualifying tomorrow morning?
I think this is one of those situations where when you see it, you just cannot help but feel gutted for them, because these race teams work very, very, very hard to get those cars ready, and for them to end up tangled in crashes like that and being forced or forcing the team to repair them, it's terrible. I've been in a team myself where there have been crashes, and you repair things, and then something happens, and then you end up having to repair things again, and it's always a bad thing. Nobody enjoys it. Not even the rivals enjoy it. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's just unlucky because it could have been different teams, but it's all of them from DriveX, so they'll struggle for the night, I guess. But this is motorsport as well, and this is why when we see them tomorrow back on track, which we will, believe me, that's when you know that. The family of motorsport has probably come together to help them make it. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were some other mechanics who were helping them out, or either missing some spare parts. It's happened before. When a team has something like this, usually the rest of the squads get around them and make sure that they can be on track tomorrow.
Very quick before we get to the podium as well. I mean, Kasper Stucker's been the most gutted from all of that as well, given that he's lost points, made contact with his teammate. Is going to be the one that's going to be pretty key. Just final thought on them before we get to the podium. Kasper's going to have to really think hard and recover for tomorrow, isn't he?
That's one of the big challenges when you are fighting for the title. Basically, now you have to reset, you have to start thinking about tomorrow, you have to forget about today, and you just have to get out and do what you know that you can do. If he can do that, then he's still into the fight. If he lets that get to him, that's when things can start to tumble down.
Indeed. We'll see if we can rebound tomorrow and hopefully make it back to the top step and score some big points and rebound and have a better day tomorrow. Gracias again, amigo. Alex, thanks for all your efforts again in pit lane and at the bottom of the pit lane. We're going on to the podium now, which means we're going to have our top 3 go onto the Monza podium, this fantastic Monza podium that we have here overlooking the pit straight. And already we have the 3rd and 2nd place drivers who are making their way onto the podium, which will be 3rd place also Valerio Rennicella, 2nd Andres Cardenas, but making his way onto the podium for the 2nd time onto the top step in 2025. The Red Bull sponsor junior for Campos Racing, Ernesto Rivera of Mexico. And as he stands on the top step, with his representative from Campos, we will now remove the hats and stand for attention for the national anthem of Mexico. National anthem of Mexico rings out your race winner, Ernesto Rivera, and a well-deserved victory. You might have had to work too hard for it, but in many cases, a win is most certainly a win. It could be a win that proves crucial come the end of the season and his rivals did falter. There's the 1st place trophy for the winning team, representative from Campos Racing. Another top step visit to the Spanish squad. They will certainly cherish that one tomorrow. And of course, we'll then go, I believe, in reverse order. So the next trophy that will come out will be the 3rd place trophy that we presented to the Italian Valerio Rennicella on the podium in his home race. He's got a chance to possibly go on the top step tomorrow and become our 8th different winner from 10 races if he can manage that. Depends on how qualifying goes tomorrow. I'm sure the next trophy will get some emotion as well, because it's going to be a 1st podium at least of the season for the talented young Peruvian Andreas Cardenas. Delighted with that, and the top MP Motorsport driver in the field as well. He'll be very pleased with that performance. Well, Cardenas, he will take that forward for tomorrow. Hopefully he can repeat the pace in qualifying. But for only the second time this season, we have a repeat winner in EUROCUP-3 in 2025, and standing on the top step of the podium, receiving the first place trophy, Campos Racing and Ernesto Rivera of Mexico. And they will all stand together for a group photo before the obvious happens next, because you know what's coming, don't you? Given that it is quite a hot day, you might well be welcome for it. A few more photos. And everyone trying to be able to wait. I think that you might well get a... I think they are either going to spray or not. They are thinking about it. Yep, I think they're going for it, because after a very long, hot race of half an hour, even as under the safety car, it is time for the usual champagne shower. I think they'll be welcome of a cool-off, even though it will make the overall stink of champagne. But nonetheless, an impressive performance from everyone involved. So, a slightly more subdued race. I think they realised it wasn't quite the race everyone was hoping for, given the incidents. But nonetheless, a result is a result, and a win is still a win for Ernesto Rivera at the top of the table, at the top of the podium. And also now, he should now top the standings going into race 2 tomorrow then. So, a race that was certainly categorised as very eventful. It comes out with Ernesto Rivera on top on the podium in race number 1 here at Monza. We'll have more tomorrow after qualifying in the morning. We'll see if Ernesto can make it 3 wins and a double here in Italy, or whether or not we can get an 8th different winner from 10 races. Congratulations to our top 3, and thanks to all of you for watching here from everyone at EuroCup-3 at Monza, and myself, Scott Woodward, and Alex Garcia. Thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow for more from EuroCup-3 at Monza for race 2 tomorrow afternoon. But until then, have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.